this episode of Voice Memos from Your Bestie with your favorite bestie, me, of course. I have the long-awaited January 2025 dating recap. It's nothing exciting. It's just, well, you'll see. We'll get into it. So diving straight into it, to go back to, I think, the first episode of the season, I shared with you my resolutions. I shared with you my resolutions for 2025. I wanted to go on more dates, more quality dates, not necessarily just going on dates just to go on them, because I can do that. That's easy. But to go on quality dates, that takes a bit more time, a little bit more vetting. So a little bit of a slow start here. In January 2025, I went on one date. Yeah, there were no second dates. So this date, it went great. It went really well. It wasn't like I didn't leave the date and feel like, what a waste of time. I did leave the date feeling like I don't know if this is compatible. I don't know if we're compatible. We sat, we talked, we had coffee. I love coffee dates, by the way. I love a coffee date. I don't need some extravagant dinner or activity. First date can be coffee, could be happy hour, whichever. But on our first date, we went and got coffee. We talked and yapped the entire time. It felt like a genuine connection, but it also felt like really comfortable. But I think that's it. That's just kind of where it landed. Some notes about him. He's a bit younger than I am, and he's sober. I am not, but I'm not a problem. And that was something that we had talked beforehand too. Like, is that an issue? Like, how does that come into play? And he's like, no, you're fine. Do whatever you want, whenever you want. Like, that has nothing to do with me. But where it came to be kind of an issue for me in our conversation is, you know, he was sharing some of his life stories and life experiences, and relapse is a part of sobriety, unfortunately. And immediately, because of how my brain works, I'm thinking 80 years ahead. Well, not 80, but, you know, I'm thinking years ahead if things progressed and we started a life together and had kids. If a relapse happened, how would I react? If there were kids in the picture, would I leave? Would I go? And I don't think that was fair. So I think that was an indicator in my head that that's somewhere that I went immediately. And I don't know if I could date someone that's sober. Maybe if they were my age and things were a little bit different, but that's kind of where that's at for now, for the time being. And then just, I think in talking to him leading up to the date, I didn't feel an age difference. It was so comfortable talking to him. And I do miss talking to him because it was so easy and so fun. But that's not enough. And we were just at completely different places in our lives right now. So yeah, that was the first date of 2025. I mean, if things were to end right here, it would be technically my last date of 2025, but you know, we're gonna keep it pushing. So where I'm meeting most of the guys, actually, that's where where I'm meeting guys right now is on the dating apps, and I'm not actually meeting them. I've only gone on one date, but I wanted to talk about some of what I would consider a green flag versus red flag on the date, like what would keep the conversation going for me, what would cut it off completely. So I'm gonna we'll start with the green flags, then I'll go into the red flags, and then that will lead into all of my nays. My nays. Green flags on the apps. If their profile is fully filled out, and that means their bio is filled out and it's not full of emojis and something funky, it's like a preview of their personality. So their profile's filled out entirely with a bio. The prompts are filled out and they're filled out accurately. I can't tell you how many times I see on one of the apps, I think it's Hinge, one of the apps is a random fact I love is, and then they fill in how much I like sushi. A random fact I love is I like skydiving. It's not filled out accurately. I don't know if they're like not, I don't know. I need all the apps filled out correctly, because if you're missing some tiny little, I can't go, no. If you can't take the time to either slow down and read and fully comprehend a 6-worded prompt on a dating app to give your best first impression, if you can't answer that accurately, how are we supposed to have any kind of conversation in the future? How am I supposed to trust that you're going to hear me and understand me and things won't get taken out of context or whatever the case is? If you're not paying attention now, I can't really trust on you to pay attention later. I read and I write, so this is kind of important to me. Answer the prompts correctly. And then there's got to be photos. Obviously photos. I need minimum one solo photo of just them. I need one photo without sunnies on, and I need one photo without a hat on, because those can make or break anything. Don't show me a group picture on your profile. I don't know who you are. I can't pick you out of a lineup. And then if you have sunglasses on in every photo, that's not gonna work for me either. Take off the sunglasses. If you're visibly face-tuned or using filters, like, oh, if I can't have filters on my photos, neither can you. And then another green, that's just like looking at their profile. But then getting into the conversation, another green flag that I look for is something like when they reference something in my profile, something that I have said. They responded to something there. I like when they message first. On Bumble, that's not a normal thing, because typically on Bumble the girl messages first. But they've done some things, some tweaks where the guy can message first, and I love that. And then on Hinge, if the guy doesn't message first, I'm on Bumble. That's where I have to message first most of the time. If you're a guy and you're not messaging first on Hinge, you need to figure it out. My list for red flags is considerably longer. First one, wanting to go off app prematurely. So that means they want to take the conversation to Instagram, Snapchat, or text. No, Snapchat, obviously no. That's not one that, no. Immediately no. Instagram, I'm not ready to take you there because that's where my family is. And then wanting to get my number and text after exchanging 4 messages it doesn't sit right with me. So that's, no, red flag. No, thank you. When a guy wants to go off app prematurely and wants to like, hey, we should text, and it doesn't feel natural, I will let him know, like, actually, like, I feel more comfortable chatting here for a little bit and getting to know you a little bit more through here first before taking that next step. And if they don't want that for some reason, I don't know, it's weird, they will stop talking to me, or they'll say, yeah, cool, they'll be cool with it, and we'll carry on. But that's a big indicator of what's next to come. I think if it's gonna go off app, it needs to feel natural, like in a natural part of the conversation where you want to keep the conversation going, or you're making plans, and that's when it can go off app. But outside of that, it should just all stay there. With an ego as big as mine, one of my biggest pet peeves is when a guy is over complimenting me. I am very much aware of the photos that I have on my profile. I am very much aware of the impression I am giving. It's a good first impression. I'm not giving any kind of weird things there of what I'm looking for. I'm not misleading in that way. But I know that these are some of my best photos because I want to give my best first impression. So when I'm getting over complimented on these photos, it's like they're doing me a favor. And I don't need that. I know I look good in the pictures. I picked them to give the best first impression I can. And it's always like compliments. I always get compliments on my eyes and my freckles. I'm like, well, thank you for complimenting my skin damage and for my eyes, which is completely at random. I had nothing to do with either of those. I did not work for either of those. I'm actually not responsible for either of those. So thank you. I'll let my parents know. But on the other hand, they can't go in and compliment me on things that like aren't physical or really on my body or anything like that, because they don't know me. So, you know, you seem so smart and cool and you seem great and chill and blah, blah, blah. You don't know me. I'm psychotic. I am insane. I'm not chill. Whatever. But it's like, you don't know me enough to be able to compliment me in that way. And it feels forced, and it feels like they're doing it for my benefit. And I don't like that either. Oh, big red flag. Do I have a red flag? Big red flag. When the flirting crosses that line. You know what line that is. It's too soon to get into that. That's not what I'm here for. No. If it crosses that line too soon in the app in the first stages of talking, he's gonna try and cross that line later on too soon as well. And that's not a position that I need myself to be in. That's not what I'm looking for. That's not my goal. And let's be honest, I don't think any woman out there needs to go on an app to find that. We don't need to solicit strangers. Pretty confident in our abilities to do that in other ways that doesn't require putting ourselves in danger in that manner. Another red flag, when they delete the app shortly after going off app. Because why did you delete the app? Like, I'm glad that you feel confident in this going well, but I'm not deleting my app. Are you kidding me? I'm not deleting my profile. That's nuts. That's insane. You don't know how this is gonna go. It's been 1 date. It's been 2 dates. We've been talking for 3 minutes. What do you mean you've deleted the app? But then Maybe they didn't delete that, they just unmatched you so that you can't see their location or see when they're updating their profile. If I start doing that, then I'd be a woman in male field. I'm not gonna do that though. Even as we're still talking, I'm going to continue to look at your profile because that's where I have, until I have your socials. I'm looking to see if you're updating your app. Why? Because I'm crazy, but also to show my friends. Duh. And then just like a pet peeve red flag, when you give me nothing to reply to. Oh, nice. What was I supposed to say to that? I replied to a prompt on Bumble and the guy said, oh, I love that answer. That was it. If you're going to give me nothing to reply to, then I'm not going to reply. So with those red flags, we're going to get into the red flags that I got into conversations with. Now, I've been matching with guys and having some conversation here and there, but these are the ones that I felt were worth mentioning and sharing. I did have, when I first made my list, I had a couple of yays on the app that I thought were going well. Well, and now they're all nays. We'll do those last and how they turned into red flags. Okay, so the first one, we're gonna go with, this is one of the app nays. App no's. This is a no from me, okay? So these aren't in any order at all. This is just how the cards came to be. First up, we have Alejandro. Good conversation, witty banter, nice back and forth. But then I got confused and I was like, wait, I'm confused. And he tried to explain it. And then I was like still confused. And I shared that. It's like, I'm so sorry. I'm very confused. And he said, okay, let's start over. And said something else. I can't remember what it was, but it further confused me. So I left it alone. I left it alone. It's like, I'm not getting any explanation here. I'm actually getting more confused the more we exchange messages. So I'm just going to stop. The next one is Joshua. And I know my niece would be so upset because she loves her Joshua, but this Joshua was not for me. He commented on one of my photos. I'm somewhere out in the rocks somewhere climbing around. And he said, can we just be homies and go see rocks? Sure, I love rocks. Can we go climb in on them and walk around on them and, explore the rocks? And then it got into, making conversation and thinking like, oh, we should go on a hike sometime. We should go camping in Joshua Tree. I love camping. I love being outdoors, not just like in an RV somewhere, like put me in a tent, give me a sleeping bag, give me a hammock. I can't necessarily start a fire with like sticks and stuff, but I can figure it out. I'll make it work. At this time, the fires were really going crazy, so I wasn't going outside so much because my asthma, my lungs act up. I prefer not to go on a steroid pack if I can avoid it, but that's what happens when the air quality is bad. So I said, I can't make any outdoor plans right now, but like, yeah, for sure, like sometime we should do that. Thinking in the meantime, we'd get to know each other, go out for some like a drink or something. I don't know. But then the conversation turned into him actively buying things for this camping trip with a stranger and no date set. Who does that? That's nuts to me. That's nuts to me. And then he said he drove a Prius, so like that wasn't really gonna get us anywhere. I have a Bronco Sport, so like I could get us everywhere, but it's like, to me, how are you gonna say we should go camping and not have a means to go off-roading to take us camping in Joshua Tree? Because that was his whole thing. If we're going, there's places I go camping that don't require off-roading, it's just flat road. But no, he wants rocks and gravel and stuff. So just, that a Prius, gross for camping. And then he messaged me and said, so when are we going? Completely ignoring the poor grammar. We haven't even met yet. And you want to set a date to go camping with a stranger? So I just left that one alone. I did say in my 2025 resolutions I was going to stop ghosting or be better at ghosting. I don't think it counts as ghosting if it's still in-app. If you have a phone number and you ghost and you stop replying, that's ghosting. But if it's in-app, I'm not counting that as ghosting. And that's to make me feel better about ghosting. Ooh, Brandon. Oh, Brandon. Brandon, we had a cute back and forth on the app. And then the question came up of what are our intentions? And he shared with me that his fiance had recently passed away. And by recent, it had been not quite a year, almost a year. This was in January, so in February it was a year. And he was getting back out there and dating. And like for me, I don't think that's enough time. That wouldn't be enough time for me. If I wanted to spend forever with this person, I might need the rest of my life. But to each their own. But in that respect, he wasn't looking for anything serious and just getting to know someone and getting back out there and dating, getting used to that again. And that's not where I'm at. I'm past that. I shared that with him and said, I just don't think we're on the same page, like, unfortunately. For me, I know that if I were to continue that conversation and I were to get attached to him in any way, shape, or form, I would be naive enough to think that I could be the one to make him happy again. As much as I want to believe that, that's not the case. Me choosing to not turn him into a project is growth, and I was really excited about that, and being able to say, I wish you happiness and healing, but I can't be the one to provide that for you, was like major for me. He told me, I wish you nothing but luck in finding your forever person. And that kind of bummed me out a little bit. Like, I appreciate the sentiment, but he found his forever person, and then she left. It made me really sad. So there's that. Here, this will lighten the mood. That got a little dark there. This one's Josh. This one's gonna require some notes because I got receipts. On January 23rd, Josh said he was going up to Tahoe for the weekend for his uncle's wedding, I think it was. And we were communicating back and forth this whole time. On January 25th, we were chatting, and I asked him, I was like, oh, hey, how was the drive? How was that? Because he was driving up to Tahoe. And I've never been there, and I've never done the drive, but I know it can be kind of big, kind of intense. And he said it was a long drive. It was 9 hours. I was like, oh, 9-hour drive. He's like, yeah, but I love it here. Oh, that's good. So then I was kind of confused. I said, okay, cool. When do you come back? He's like, oh, I don't come back till Monday. Monday was going to be January 27th. On January 25th, when I was talking to him, and he was supposedly in Tahoe, his location on his dating profile said Temecula at one point in the day, and then it said Anaheim, which is where he lives. Something, if you don't know about Bumble, they use your location to get people in your area that are near you. They don't give your direct location, and it's probably off by like a mile or so. You know, I think it's safe. I haven't had it be an issue for me yet. But you need your location on in order for it to work. That's how you get your matches. When I asked him, I said, oh, that's weird because your location says Anaheim. And I sent him a screenshot, and he goes, yeah, I live in Anaheim. Yeah, but your location says you're physically in Anaheim. He said, oh, I don't share my data with Bumble. I don't share my data, so it won't see it. It won't update. But you'll see right now when I do update it, it's gonna show accurate. You know what he did? He paid for the premium version of Bumble so he could use travel mode, which updated his location to Tahoe. Now, what's the big deal about that? Why is like, okay, cool. So he updated it and that changed. Well, if he was truly in Tahoe, he wouldn't have needed to use travel mode. It would have updated his location. But in travel mode on Bumble, a feature that you pay for, you can select where you're going to be. You don't have to physically be there. The intention of travel mode is to set it to where you're going to be a couple days before, maybe a week or two before, so you can start talking to people and have dates set up for when you are there. So he was never actually in Tahoe. He paid money to say that he was. For what? Because then all his matches were in Tahoe. There was nobody local because that's where it said it was. And then on Monday, he turned it off. When I had called him out on it, he said, well, since you don't believe me and think I'm lying for whatever reason, here's this picture, like, don't mind my face. And he sent me proof. It was a picture of him and some guy in a suit at a party. Not anything that showed me that he was in Tahoe. Like him in front of a sign, him, like his location, like a screenshot of the maps, like of his pin, or like, you know, nothing that like actually provided proof. And I wasn't gonna get into it. I was like, you know what, enjoy your night, just, you know, hit me up tomorrow. He didn't message me for 3 more days. And that message that he sent back to me, an emoji, a winking emoji. So we can see how all of these guys thus far like have not worked out and have been some sort of red flag. Brandon, not so much. But how everyone else kind of turned into one, yeah. And I think to lie on a dating app is nuts, because what else are you willing to lie about? I don't even want to think about that. But to then lie about your location and where you're at, what does that even matter to me? You don't have to tell me you're going to Tahoe. What's that mean? I don't even care. If you're going on, like, if you're seeing other people, if you're going on dates, yeah, we are. That's what we're doing. We're dating to figure out who's our person. I don't know. These guys are moving weird. In that time period when that was happening, there was just a lot of weird guy movement. I've gotten to 3 of my app yays turned nays. So these were going well until they weren't. Let's start with we're gonna start with Tim. Tim, we had some okay back and forth. It was pretty good, decent conversation, but it wasn't very long before he had said, hey, let's text. Do you want to text? It's like, no, honestly, like, thank you so much. Like, I'm glad you're, like, I'm flattered, but I'd rather talk here a little bit longer, kind of get to know you a little bit better first. and then I hadn't responded quick enough, or I didn't respond for like an entire day. This all happened in the week of my sister's birthday, so I was doing a lot. I was still working, but also doing things with her for her birthday. And he said, "Are you sure you don't want to just text?" I thought I'd made it pretty clear I would let him know when I was ready to do that. When I said, "I'd rather get to know you a little bit better here first," and it was maybe 3 messages later that he said, "You sure you don't want to text?" Ghost. Next one, Tyler. He had a big dog, but that's not enough. A dog is not enough. Tyler, it was witty banter. It was good. It was great. Loved the conversation. It was a lot of fun. I was having a great time chatting with him. But then the conversation, the flirting, went too far. It crossed the line, almost, or so I thought. And when I thought that, I stepped back immediately. The second that I think the conversation's going into inappropriate territories, I'll stop talking entirely and just kind of almost let them feel like an idiot for going that direction. I'll either stop talking to them entirely, or I'll make them feel stupid. I just kind of play dumb and aloof, like, I don't know what you're talking about. I don't understand your innuendo. Can you explain it to me? And then it's not funny anymore, right? It's not cute. It's not flirty anymore. And you have to explain it. It's like how a joke isn't funny once you have to explain it. So I had stopped replying to him, and he replied back and just said, "Okay then." And so that made me open up the conversation, and I was like, oh wait, hold on. Let me reread this. And in my rereading, I recognized that, okay, wait, maybe I was the one that misread or misled the conversation in this direction. And so I apologized. I said, "I'm so sorry. I misunderstood the conversation and the direction it was going. I felt like it was about to cross a line that I wasn't into crossing. But after rereading, I feel like I could have been the one that led the conversation there. And of course you followed suit, which is, I can't fault you for. But I apologize for not setting that boundary ahead of time and having basically the whole conversation by myself. We can start over. I'd like to start over if you'd like, but you know, I'm sorry. Like, I apologize for not having the conversation with you." And he didn't respond, which makes me think that I was not the one that misled, and he kind of took it in that direction, which is fine. That's totally fine. But I felt like I needed to address it and be like, hey, I understand I could have been the one that took this in the wrong way, and I was the one that led it down that path and kind of set him up for failure. But for him to not message back after I sent that was like, okay, maybe he did that himself. Which leads us to our last app, yay to nay, Walker. This one started so strong. Oh my god, this one kind of bums me out a little bit, but not really, but kind of. This conversation felt different. It felt good. It felt like it had legs to stand on, like it could go somewhere, like it could go past the 3rd, 4th, or 5th date, like I could get there, and then it didn't. So the conversation went really well in app. We took it to text. It felt natural and a natural place to do so, so I did. Conversation was going well, and then at one point I had said, "We made tacos," and the response that I got to that was 3 full screen paragraphs about cooking in potatoes. And I don't know how you got there. I don't understand. And that was just, at that point, I think I had gotten the ick, and it's very hard to come back from the ick. But there was so much more to reply to that. Like, so much other things to reply to, that's what you went in on. And we hadn't even talked about cooking. There's so much conversation to have in person that I prefer to have in person, that wasn't even a place I was trying to go down. And he just went in about cooking and potatoes and steak. And it's like, I just ate. I'm not hungry, but what are you doing? So from that point, I ended up like slowing my response time. And they were really long messages to reply to. So I was replying in really long messages that took a lot of thought for me to respond to. And it was once again, my sister's birthday week. We were at Disneyland, I think the final day that we were talking. And I didn't really get to reply because we were there pretty much all day. And so I was like with my niece, I was with my sister, I was with our friends. I was on rides, I was here, I was there, I was running around, and didn't really reply to anyone or anything unless you were physically right in front of me. That's who I talked to all day. And later that day, the next day, he sent me a text and said, "Hey, don't know what happened, but I'm gonna move on. Like, good luck out there, whatever." And I felt bad because I was really trying hard not to. I was like, maybe if I just get past this, if I can break this barrier, maybe if I meet him in person, it'll be fine, like we'll be good. But I didn't get to that point, and I replied, I was like, I'm so sorry, I'm normally a much better person. I'm normally a much better texter in person. That doesn't make sense. I'm normally like much better at texting, but I've just been so busy, and I'm like, I'm so sorry. I understand you're needing to move on or wanting to move on. I get it. I don't blame you. And then he didn't respond to that, which is fine because he said he was gone. He was gone, and he went. But that's what I've got. A bunch of dead ends. I've got some news stories already coming for you for February. It's been a doozy of a week. I'll be working a Valentine's Day weekend, so there won't be any fun content for that. But maybe after Valentine's Day, dates will start picking up because there's no pressure to have a Valentine or anything like that. So wish me luck for the rest of the month, and hopefully I have something more exciting to tell you about for the February 2025 dating recap. I think that's all that I've got for this episode, your dating recap. Oh, a resolution check. Yeah. I know I said I was going to have my car cleaned out by February 1st. It has not been cleaned out. So that's going to get pushed back to March 1st. March 1st. We're aiming for March 1st. Have I picked up a book and read it that was not my own? Absolutely not. So off to a very slow start. But, you know, it's January, now it's February. Maybe the sun's going to be out more, you know. I've got some guests coming. Oh, yeah. We'll see. I'm hopeful. It's just one month out of the year. I've got 11 more to go. And those, I think the best is yet to come. That's all I've got for you today. If you have any questions or comments, leave them where I can find them. I'll get to them. If you have any concerns, you can keep those to yourself. Oh, if you have any voice memos, go ahead and send them. Send them to me. Send me your voice memos. That's going to be all that I have for you today. I'll see you next week. Bye.